Now we are going to start the clinical anatomy which is associated with our trachea, esophagus and also our thoracic duct. So let's start with, so first if you see in a radiograph, the trachea is seen as a vertical translucent shadow due to contained air in front of cervicothoracic spine. So actually the air is present in cervicothoracic spine, so because of this the trachea will not be that much appreciated in the case of radiograph. But clinically the tracheal palpitation is mainly seen in suprasternal notch, that is just as above the manubrium sterni, that is a suprasternal notch where you can mainly palpitate the trachea. So it's normally a medial structure, but it may shift in conditions like mediastinal shift. And during the swallowing, when you are swallowing the food, the larynx is elevated usually and the trachea elongates by stretching because the tracheal bifurcation is not permitted to move by aortic arch. So when you are swallowing, the larynx will be elevated, so because of that even the trachea will be elongated by stretching. So because tracheal bifurcation is not permitted to move by aortic arch. Next, any downward pull due to sudden and forced inspiration or aortic aneurysm may produce a physical sign known as tracheal tug. So tracheal tug means the downward pull mainly due to sudden and forced inspiration or sometimes even maybe due to aortic aneurysm. Next you have tracheostomy, which is a surgical procedure which allows air to enter directly into the trachea. It's mainly done in the case of blockage of air pathway in nose or larynx. So sometimes if the trachea is blocked by means of any blockage in either nose or larynx, then we do this procedure, surgical procedure, which allows the air directly so that now it can be relieved. And it's coming to tracheal rings. Tracheal rings are incomplete posteriorly. Esophagus dilates during swallowing and allow diameter of trachea to be controlled by trachealis muscle. So that is the reason why posteriorly it is not completed, because during swallowing or some other processes the esophagus will it will also become dilated. So even trachea have a control by means of mainly trachealis muscle, which narrows the caliber of the tube and it will compress and contain air if vocal cords are closed. This will increase explosive force of blast off compressed air as occurs in coughing. So that's why when you're coughing or sneezing, that's why if the food is struck, we'll get a cough or sneeze, because it is compressing the posterior wall of trachea. Mainly it is controlled by trachealis muscle. Next we'll see the mucus secretions help to trap inhaled foreign particles, and soiled mucus expelled by coughing cilia of mucous membrane beat upwards push mucus towards pharynx. So mainly coughing mainly because the cilia mechanism which is moving the cough upward towards the pharynx. Next, trachea. Trachea is get compressed by pathological enlargement of thyroid. So sometimes if the thyroid is enlarged so highly, then the trachea will get compressed, and even if the thymus gets enlarged or lymph nodes or aortic arch, they all cause dyspnea, difficulty in breathing, because it's a windpipe, and it will irritate the cough, and also mostly the people will have a husky voice. So this is because when the trachea is get compressed because of thyroid or thymus or lymph nodes. So now we'll see in portal hypertension. So in portal hypertension, the communication between the portal and systemic veins draining the lower end of esophagus dilate, and this is called esophageal varices. So you can see here the esophageal varices, the veins are dilated and they look like this. So once again we'll repeat it. It's due to portal hypertension. Communication between the portal, portal means the vein which is coming from the liver and to the systemic veins draining the lower end of esophagus. Systemic veins drain the lower end of esophagus, so they get dilated because there is hypertension in portal vein. So this causes esophageal varices. Next, rupture of this varices may cause serious hematemesis or vomiting of blood, because if this get ruptured, you can understand esophageal varices, if they get ruptured, then of course the blood will come as vomiting out. And esophageal varices is visualized radiographically by barium swallow, and they produce worm-like shadows. So mainly use a diagnostic technique, barium swallow, so that they can produce a worm-like shadows and we can confirm it's a esophageal varices. And especially left atrial enlargement, as you see in mitral stenosis, because mitral valve is closed, so the blood accumulate in left atria. So this can also be visualized by barium swallow. And enlarged atrium causes shallow depression on front of esophagus. And barium swallow will help in diagnosis of esophageal strictures, carcinoma, and also eclasia cardia. So normally in indentations of esophagus should be kept in mind during esophagoscopy. For example, if you see, these are the indentations, because esophagoscopy means you will send some structure into the esophagus. So if you will not note the indentation, how can send it properly? So this is the outline of esophagus. This is indentation caused by aortic arch. As we already discussed, the 4 constrictions of esophagus. The first one is due to aortic arch, crossing of aortic arch. Another one is due to left bronchus, and another one is due to left atrium, and also another one is due to piercing of diaphragm where it enters. So this 4 constrictions should be observed whenever you are doing esophagoscopy. So the lower end of esophagus is kept closed, opened by stimulus of food bubble. Yeah, always it's get collapsed, but only when a food is present it will open. Next, neuromuscular junction incoordination. So sometimes neuromuscular junction may have incoordination, and what happens here is the lower end of esophagus fail to dilate with arrival of food. So sometimes lower end of esophagus fail to dilate because here the neuromuscular junction is not working, means action potentials are not reaching the muscle, so the muscle is failed there. So the food whenever it's entering the esophagus, it's not able to dilate. So because of that, there is accumulation of food in the esophagus. This is known as eclasiocardia, mainly due to congenital absence of nerve cells in the esophagus. So actually sometimes it is congenital because the nerve cells are absent in esophagus, so that the neuromuscular junction can't work and the food start accumulating in the esophagus. Next, improper separation of trachea from esophagus during development give rise to tracheoesophageal fistula. So if you see this diagram, this is a tracheoesophageal fistula. Sometimes the esophagus and trachea are not separated. So this is trachea, right? So this is a lower segment connected to trachea, that is esophagus. This is esophageal atresia. So atresia means it has stopped here and it's connected. So this is called esophageal tracheoesophageal fistula. And next you have compression of esophagus in case of mediastinal syndrome cause dysphagial difficulty in swallowing. So esophagus is compressed, mainly in case of mediastinal syndrome, cause dysphagial difficulty. Yeah, of course esophageal is a food pipe, so if it is getting compressed, then you don't have a chance to swallow the food properly. So this is a problem. So this is about our clinical anatomy related to esophagus, trachea, and also our thoracic duct. So next we'll complete this chapter. So by this we have completed this chapter. We'll also study the last lesson, that is surface markings of this thorax anatomy.